Hi everyone, Kathleen Connor here. I'm a senior fitness specialist and certified personal trainer at the Falston Senior Center. And today what I'm going to be doing is a body conditioning intermediate class. I'm going to do a demonstration. And as I go through the demonstration, I'm going to go through some exercises. I'm going to do some do's and don'ts, good form versus bad form. So that's what we'll be doing today, good form versus bad form, and the benefits of doing it correctly versus incorrectly. All right, so I'm going to start with my head down this end, so I'm going to roll myself down. So typically, something as simple as this makes a big difference. So I have the ability and the strength to just roll myself down flat like this with no issues. But if you're just starting out, you would have your heels in the ground, your toes up, and probably put your hands here for support. So you're going to use your upper body strength to roll yourself down onto the mat. So using your hands here, just roll yourself down. Hopefully I'm going to line up with my head on the mat. So roll yourself down like this. So using the strength of your upper body to help you get down to the mat is very helpful, especially if you're just starting out. So here in our body conditioning class, typically I do a warm-up, but again today we're doing do's and don'ts, things that are good form versus bad form. So we have our feet, our knees and hips lined up, and we're going to do upper body first. So I'm going to grab my weights. I'm going to use 7-pound weights today. If you're just starting out, if you're in an intermediate class, typically I'm seeing maybe 5, 7, 8 pounds, even 10 or 12 pounds, maybe even heavier than that. But again, if you have issues with your cervical spine or your shoulders, you're going to go light. You're going to go 1, 3, maybe 5-pound weights, especially when you lift above your head. But right now, on our backs, we're going to start with our tricep work. I'm going to start with one weight only because I want to show you good form versus bad form. So in a tricep, normally we have both weights straight above our head, and our palms are facing inward. Now, good form is elbow back, so from shoulder to elbow, sort of pointed to the sky. And I'm going to put my hand here just to demonstrate. You're supposed to hinge at the elbow, so you end up with the wrist to the elbow parallel to the earth like this. So the wrist does not go below the elbow and then straight back up again. The elbow does not lock. So you take it down halfway and lift it straight back up again. And typically, again, you have 2 weights when you're doing this. So what I see sometimes in a class, which I go around and correct, is I see this. I see how the elbow is going down and then going back up. The elbow is dropping down, so I'm sort of hinging at the elbow and the shoulder as well. So this is sort of like this is bad form. This is incorrect form here. All right, so again, the elbow is back from shoulder to elbow, pointing up. Again, doing this with 2 weights. You should keep I'm going to use my hand here again to demonstrate proper form. Trying to keep the elbow from the elbow to the shoulder locked in place. We're going to hinge at the elbow. Notice the wrist lines up with the elbow and back up again. So I don't lower the wrist down low like this, and I don't lock the elbow. So I don't go down low like this, and I don't lock the elbow. So now let's grab both weights. Take them straight above our heads. Let's take those elbows back. Our lower back is resting gently. Our bellies are drawn in. We hinge at the elbow and lifting back up again. At the elbow and back up. Breathe. And we'll just do 4 more of these. Again, today it's all about showing you good form in your practice. You've got 3 more. And 2 more. And 1 more time. So doing it properly is going to, 1, build the strength where you want it, which is your tricep, the back of your arm. It's also helping to protect the elbow joint. So again, if you let the wrist go below the elbow, it puts too much pressure on the elbow joint. All right, let's move on. So 1 weight in each hand. I can do with both weights. We take our elbows out to the side. So from the shoulder to the elbow to the fingertips, 90 degrees. So from shoulder to elbow to fingertips, 90 degrees. Once again, bellies are drawn in and lower back is gently resting on the mat. We just lift it straight up. Kind of bring the weights towards each other and back down again. So lifting it straight up and back down. So good form has the elbows slightly bent as you lift up, and elbows coming down to the ground, and try not to let the elbows rest on the ground. So we lift it up, elbows slightly bent, and back down again. So improper form would be to bring the elbows up and lock the elbows. This is really tough on the elbow joint. So we bring it down, elbows slightly to the ground, and lifting up, keeping elbows slightly bent. We'll do 4 more of these. Elbows always slightly bent. You've got 2 more. And 1 more time. And release. Let's put the weights down and just shake that off a little bit. Shake it off. So again, if this is the first time doing this type of work, you're going to feel every one of these repetitions. So you want to make sure that as you go through the repetitions, if typically in a class that I teach at the Center of Body Conditioning, I'm typically doing about 16 repetitions, or sometimes I'll do 24. So if you're in a class doing this type of workout and you feel 8 is enough or 12, it's all good. It's all good stuff. All right, so next, feet on the ground, feet, knees, hips lined up. This time I'm taking the weights up to the sky. I have my palms facing inward, and I'm going to slightly bend my elbows. I'm going to work my chest. I'm going to take the weights out to the side. I'm going to try to keep my arms off the ground if I can slightly, then lift it straight back up again. So notice as the arms come down, I bend my elbows a little bit more and then lift straight back up. Again, take it out to the side and lift. Working the pectoral muscles, your chest. Breathe. So here again, bad form would be locking the elbows. Breathe. We'll do 2 more of these. And 1 more time. Let's put those weights down and shake it off. So one thing that I hear from time to time is people will tell me that, oh, my hands get so sore after doing body conditioning. Don't make the grip so tight. So when you're holding onto a weight like this, a lot of times you can just kind of gently bring the fingers around like this. You don't have to grip it like that. Just gentle. Just hold it gently like this. All right, so we're going to move on. And move the weights over here to the side. And I'm going to rotate away from you first because I want to demonstrate good form versus bad form. So rotating over. So good form would be, we're going to work my outer thigh. So good form would be arm extended, rest the head. Arm extended, rest the head. Have one leg on top of each other. I take my top hand in front for support. This is going to keep me from rolling forward and back. So this keeps me from rolling forward and back. Now I'm going to bend my knees ever so slightly. I'm going to flex my heels. I'm not pointing my toes. I'm flexing my heels. I'm going to lift the weight up, which is the weight of my leg, and back down again. So here I'm sort of pushing my heels away from the body. I'm lifting it straight up and straight back down again. So here I have my heel flexed, I have my knee slightly bent, and I'm lifting at the hip. And I'll do about 4 more of these. And 2 more times. And then 1 more time. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate to the other side. I'm going to face you, and I'm going to show you improper form. So improper form first would be here like this. Okay, this puts too much pressure on the low back, also on your shoulders and your neck. So this is not neutral spine. We no longer have neutral spine here. So you always extend the arm out and rest the head. Or you could even make a little pillow here. So you could kind of curl the hand back towards your shoulder and make a pillow. But you're trying to maintain neutral spine. So I always offer the extended arm. I have one leg on top of each other. I have my belly drawn in, and I have my hand in front for support so I don't roll forward and back. So good form is arm extended and rest the head. Now we're going to bend the knees slightly, and we're going to push the heels away from the body. Poor form would be to not flex the foot. Poor form would have the legs straight and locked, the knees locked. So knees slightly bent, heels are flexed. We're going to lift the leg up and back down again. Breathe. Poor form would be to lift the leg up. To lift the leg up. That's, again, using momentum. We're trying not to use momentum. So I suggest that we lift the foot up about no more than 2 feet, maybe 24 inches, 18, 20 inches, something like that's good. But when you start lifting it up like this, now it takes momentum to lift it up. All right, so we're trying to keep the lift to about maybe 24 inches. Again, hand in front for support and bellies are drawn in. I'll do about 4 more of these. And 3. I'm always breathing. In through the nose, breathe. Out through the mouth. And last one. And I can tell that I've worked here. I've worked the body here. All right, I'm going to rotate to my belly. So in this exercise, I'm going to start in a modification. So the modification here is one hand on top of each other and elbows off the mat or out to the side. And I would typically take my forehead and rest right on the top hand. So I have a mic on today, so I'm going to keep my head up to start. So, and readjust my hair there. So we're going to start with the legs extended. I'm pointing my toes. I'm really trying to reach out with my toes. So I'm not flexing my heels. I'm reaching with my toes. I'm going to draw my belly button into my spine. So I'm going to lift my belly button up. And then to start, again, I'm going to put my forehead on the top hand, pointing with my toes. I'm going to lift my legs up at the hip and then release. Really trying to point and reach with my toes and release. Again, I'm going to lift my head up. But typically when you do this, you're trying to keep the forehead on the ground. Breathe. And I'll do 2 more of these, 2 more. Again, bellies are drawn in. And last one. And most of us aren't going to lift those legs up very high off the hip, off the ground. But you're really trying to lift at the hip, not the knees. So sometimes what I will see is this. I will see people lifting at the knees like this. So they're bending or lifting the legs up at the knees. Or what I will also see is this. Now I'm going to actually do this. I'm going to start with my forehead on the ground. And I'm going to lift my legs up. And as I do, I see the forehead coming off the hand. So I see the forehead lifting up off the hand. Basically what you're doing here is you are counterbalancing or lifting using once you lift the legs up, you counterbalance by lifting the head up. We're trying to keep the head on the ground. So not using the, when you lift the legs up, you're trying not to lift the head up off the ground like this. Instead, keeping the head on the ground or on the top hand. And last one. You want to make sure that when you're doing this exercise, because again, we're focusing here on the low back and the buttock, you want to make sure that you are not feeling any pain or pinch in the low back. So if there's any discomfort there, you shouldn't do it. All right, so moving on, going into bird dog. And this is a modified bird dog. In modified bird dog, we do this on our belly. In our classes, a lot of times we'll do this as well on our knees. But today I'm just going to demonstrate it on my belly. So my arms are extended and my palms are facing downward. Typically I'd have my forehead resting, but today as I'm talking to you through the mic, I'm trying to keep my forehead up. But the correct form is forehead resting on the mat like this. I draw my belly button in, navel to spine, so I'm lifting my belly button up. And I'm going to lift my right leg up, and as I lift my right leg up, I'm going to point that toe. I'm going to reach out with that toe. And then I'm just going to lift my left arm up. So my right leg comes up, and then my left arm comes up. But my forehead should be downward. I should have neutral spine. And release. So for this demonstration, I'm going to turn my head downward, giving you the proper view or the proper form. So forehead down, neutral spine. I take a breath in, I lift my left leg up and point the toe, I lift my right arm, extend, and then release. Belly's drawn in, take the breath in. On the exhale, lift right leg up and left arm. And they don't have to go very high up. And release. Now, if you find when you do this, there's discomfort in low back, I want you to focus on keeping your hands on the ground and just lift the leg up itself. But very important, make sure the belly is drawn in. So lift the belly up. Remember to breathe. Take a breath in, forehead resting, lift just the right leg up and reach with that big toe. And then release. Inhale the breath. On the exhalation, lift left leg up. So here you're doing a modification of bird dog. And release. Again, we take the breath in. On the exhale, we lift right leg up, pointing that toe, keeping left hand on the ground. And release. And one more time, we take the breath in. On the exhale, we lift left leg up, pointing that toe. And release. And just rest. Now, moving hands to your side with palms facing up. Hands to your side, palms facing up. So again, low back people, any discomfort here, any discomfort in that low back, just don't do it. It's all good. We do lots of things in body conditioning, so if this one doesn't work for you, it's okay. So again, notice my feet are pointed, my heels are not flexed. Toes are pointed. So here, I'm going to keep my feet on the ground. Even though I'm trying to reach with my big toes, I'm going to keep them on the ground. I'm not going to counterbalance by lifting the legs up. I'm going to keep them resting. I'm going to take a breath in. On the exhale, lifting my head and chest up, looking straight down at the mat, and then lifting my arms up with my palms facing up. I'm remembering my breath, and then release. I take in a breath. On the exhale, head and chest lifts up, and then the hands with palms facing up. I'm still reaching with my big toes, and release. Again, I take the breath in. On the exhale, lift my head and chest up. My hands and palms come up off the ground, reaching with my big toes, and release. I've got one more. We take the breath in. On the exhale, I lift. I try to lift a little higher. No pinch, no pain. Buttock is nice and tight. And release. So again, in proper form would be 1, counterbalancing, lifting the legs up as the head comes up. That's a whole nother exercise. Here we're trying to keep them grounded and lifting head and chest up and then arms. Another improper position for this exercise would be to curl the chin up. So as you lift your head and chest up, you start to look up like this, and then the arms come up. So here you're pinching the cervical spine. You're trying to have neutral spine, so you're looking straight down at the mat. And release. So again, improper form for the cervical spine here would be to, as you lift, you kind of lift your chin up, and then arms come up. So again, you're trying to maintain neutral spine. And release and relax. And then if you extend the arms out, this one's called skydiver. This is hopefully I'm not going to hit the weights. I may hit the weights. No, I think I'm good. Okay, so in skydiver, you take your legs out nice and wide. So far, the ones we're doing on our belly are really focusing on our back, or building strength in our back. So toes here are extended. The feet are out as wide as you can take them. And it's called skydiver because it looks just like you jumping out of a good airplane, a perfectly good airplane. My husband's a pilot, so he's like never going to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. So with legs extended and pointing the toes again, trying to lengthen. The modification here is starting with hands here, one hand on top of each other and elbows off the mat. You take your forehead and you rest it on the top hand. So again, I'm going to lift up because I have the mic on just to start. So here we take a breath in. On the exhale, you lift your legs up at the hip. You're not lifting very high. And release. So here in good form, forehead to rest. I'm trying to reach with my big toes, and I'm just lifting my legs up. Even though they may not appear that they're being lifted at the hip, I'm trying to lift them at the hip. The further apart the legs are, the more difficult this is. So when you bring the legs in a little bit closer, And you take the breath in. You can lift your legs up a little higher and release. But again, our focus is to try to get the legs out wide, pointing the toes. Take the breath in, forehead resting, and lift the legs up at the hip. And release. So here you can feel it in your buttock, and you also feel it in your low back. To go into a more challenging posture for skydiver is we extend our arms out opposite direction. So we kind of create this X with our body. And again, forehead to rest. So good form here for the more advanced posture is arms extended, palms facing down, toes pointed, trying to reach with the big toes, trying to reach with the fingertips, looking straight down at the mat. Take a breath in. On the exhale, you lift your head and chest up, and then arms reach out and release. I'm going to have to move those weights just a little bit. Okay, so again, take a breath in. On the exhale, we lift the head and chest, the legs come up, and arms. Don't hold your breath. So the other issue with skydiver is this. Once you lift the legs and head and chest up, again, not lifting the chin up. So I'm going to demonstrate poor form. So we start with forehead down. Remember, we're trying to think of neutral spine. We take the breath in. On the exhale, we lift the legs up, head and chest comes up, arms come up, and then you look up. So you're trying not to look up. You want to maintain neutral spine and release. I'll do that one more time. Take the breath in. On the exhale, lift the legs up. Head and chest comes up, arms come up, and then chin up is incorrect form. Looking straight down at the mat, having neutral spine is correct form. And release. You bring your hands back in, you bring your feet back in, and you just rest. Take in deep breaths. And I'm going to rotate back to my back. Again, for those of you who are new, you want to make sure that you use your hands here for support, especially now because you've worked your back, you've done some work there for your back may be a little sensitive. So you want to make sure that you've got this upper body strength to help you out. So you roll yourself down nice and slow. You're on your back, your feet are on the ground, your low back is resting. That feels good. Hands to your side. Just take a couple nice deep breaths in and out. All right, so we're going to move into doing some more core work here. In core work in the front of the body, we just finished doing core work in the back of the body, the back. Now we're going to work on core in the front. We're going to have our hands to our side. We have both feet on the ground, and our feet, knees, and hips are lined up. We're looking straight up to the sky. We're going to take a breath in. On the exhale, bring the left knee into chest and take left leg to the sky. Left heel is flexed. Again, hands to our side. So in a body conditioning intermediate class, I may ask you to bring both legs up to do this exercise, but today we'll do just one. We have hands to our side, and notice my heel is flexed, and I'm trying to straighten my leg out as much as I can. You may find that you're very tight here in the hamstring or the calf, so the knee may be bent, but you're trying to strengthen the leg and really reach to the sky. So again, hands to your side. This right foot is grounded, that knee is up, the foot, the knee and hip are all lined up. Your low back is resting gently, the belly button drawing to the earth. You're going to take this heel to the ground. So you're going to drop it gently to the ground. Then as you lift, point the toe and lift it straight to the sky. Again, heel flexes as it goes down. Then point the toe as you lift up. So this is a single leg drop. So you're trying to keep the heel off the ground as it comes down, trying to hold that resistance, take it down. Point the toe to lift up. You're looking straight to the sky. And each time you point the toe and flex the heel, you're really trying to get that length. So really pushing the heel and then pointing that toe as you lift. Remember your breath. You inhale as it goes down. You exhale as you draw it back up. We'll do this one more time. And then put that foot on the ground. We'll switch to the other side. Again, we'll take this leg, which is my right, straight to the sky. Again, I'm trying to straighten my leg out. Even though your knee may be bent, it's all good. But if you can, you're trying to get that length, try to push that heel to the sky. Hands to your side. The foot is flexed. Take a breath in. Exhale. Point the toe to lift. Again, trying to keep the foot off the ground if you can, trying to hold the resistance. Think about when you're in a class and you're using resistance bands. The same thing's applying here. If you rest, and I'll do it this time, if you rest the heel on the ground, I've lost the strength here. I've stopped the momentum of the strength. I've got to lift my toe back up again. So again, by resting the heel on the ground like this, I've stopped the momentum of the repetition. So we're trying to keep the heel off the ground. Looking straight to the sky, remembering your breath. And I'll do a few more. And with the heel flexed, you can really feel that strength coming from this low part of the belly. The transverse abdominis, the psoas. 2 more times. And 1 more time. And then feet on the ground. And just sort of walk those out a little bit. Walk those out. All right, so far we've done core work for the back. We've done a little bit of core work for the belly. We're going to move on. Hands to your side. Feet on the ground. We have our feet, our knees, and hips lined up. Now here we're going to take the low back and just gently rest it downward. So we're taking the belly button and sort of gently pushing down to the earth. Hands to our side. And we're just going to take a breath in and we're going to lift the chin up to the sky. So lift the nose to the sky and back down again. So take a breath in. On the exhale, lift and release. So you're going to keep your chin out of your chest. Now, if you have issues here with your cervical spine or your neck, you're going to take your hands behind your head and lifting the chin up and back down again. So what I find sometimes when it comes to, this is a basic stomach crunch. We've done this when we were kids. Basic stomach crunch. What I find I see occasionally, not much anymore, but what I do see sometimes is I'll see as you come up, you'll see the chin curling into the chest like this. So you're keeping the chin curling into the chest as you come up. You're trying to imagine that there is a sort of a string on the end of your nose and you're sort of lifting up. So the string is pulling you up and drawing you back down. Then another incorrect portion of a basic stomach crunch is where the elbows are placed or how you see the elbows. So if you have your hands behind your back or behind your head and the fingertips aren't really crossed, but they're sort of touching, sort of crisscrossed, the elbows are resting right now on the mat or on the ground. And your lower back is gently resting. So when I lift up and I keep my chin out of my chest and I draw my nose to the sky, if I curl my chin to chest, what I also have a tendency to do is to lift my elbows up like this and back down again. Now, I'm exaggerating, but lifting up like this, drawing my elbows up to the sky. This puts a lot of pressure on the cervical spine. So instead, when you lift up, you shouldn't be able to see the elbows in your peripheral vision. So the elbows should be pressed back. So when you lift up into a stomach crunch, you no longer see the elbows. Last one. And release and rest. So years ago, we were taught to do like 100 sit-ups. And it was always our 100 crunch. It was always a good thing to do all these crunches, trying to get that six-pack ab or rectus abdominis, really working that belly area. What we know now is a better tactic to building strength in the core is to work around the core, not to do all these stomach crunches. So what we're going to do now is, again, think about the basic stomach crunch. How when you draw the chin up or the nose to the sky, you're keeping that space like an apple or a fist space right here. So you're not drawing the chin to chest. You're not using that cervical spine to lift up. You're trying to focus on the core. So we're going to keep our hands to our side to start. So let's just start with a few of those first. So take a breath in. On the exhale, lift up, looking straight to the sky. You're going to feel here, right here, and release. We'll do 3 more of those. Just lift up and back down. So we're trying not to strain the neck. We're trying to protect the neck. And last one. So again, what we're taught now is not to do like 100 of these. We're taught to move around the body. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to have you move around the body, and we're going to take our hands back behind our head, and we're going to use the old-fashioned stomach crunch to do this. So again, remember, feet on the ground, feet, knees, hips lined up, and lower back is gently resting. So we're going to draw up, up, come back down, and then we're going to take the hand, we'll take a right hand to left knee, come back down, we'll go back to center, come back down, then left hand to right knee, and back down again. So again, let's go straight to the sky, and then cross over, and down. We lift up, and then we cross over, and back down. Again, we lift, and then cross over, and down. We'll do it one more time. Lift, and then cross over, and back down. So by crisscrossing across the core, the belly area, is much more effective than doing those bunch of stomach crunches straight up. So this is something that we have learned as we have gone through becoming a fitness instructors. We were taught that first thing to do 100 of these, but now we know it's better to crisscross across the body. All right, so let's move on. Hands to your side. Again, today I'm really kind of focusing on showing you the pros and cons, the good form versus bad form. So this one is the inner thigh exercise. So left foot on the ground, left knee up. Left foot, left knee, left hip lines up. We're going to extend right leg all the way out. So right heel is going to rest to start. So with right heel resting, I want you to bend the knee ever so slightly. So it's just a little bend. It's not a big bend, just a little bend. Then let the right big toe just fall out. And as it falls out away from the body, the right knee and the right hip goes with it. So the right foot, the right knee, and right hip are all tracked out away from the body. And notice as you do that, the left hip kind of wants to come up with it. So we're trying to keep the left hip pressing. So the left hip and right hip right now should be lined up and resting gently on the mat. Our hands to our side, our right knee slightly bent, our right big toe, our right knee, and right hip are all tracked out away from the body. With bellies drawn in, we lift right knee up to line with left knee, so right knee to left, and back down again. So right knee comes up to line with left, and back down. You lift up and back down. So in proper form, we'll be, of course, doing this, trying to lift that leg up. We know this is momentum. This takes momentum to lift. It's not strength. So we're trying to get the right knee to sort of line with the left. And then note that we're trying to keep the right heel off the ground. So lifting up and back down again. So if I let my right heel rest like this, again, just like the resistance bands, the reason why we use those is we're trying to hold resistance. Here I've lost the resistance, the strength, that repetition has stopped. So hands to our side, I'll do 4 of these. Keep the heel off the ground, we lift it up and back down. Then as I lift up, I can tell I'm levering the right leg, the weight of the right leg up, and my left hip wants to come up off the ground. So I'm trying to keep the belly drawn in to keep that left hip resting. And last one. and release. And then we always shake that one out. So we kind of point and flex that toe. Then right foot on the ground, right foot, right knee, right hip lines up, hands to our side. Let's extend left leg out. So right now, left heel is resting and left knee is almost locked. I'm going to simply bend my left knee ever so slightly. Then just let the left foot rotate out away from the body. So now the left foot just rotates out, the left knee goes with it, the left hip goes with it. So left foot, left knee, left hip are all lined up. Hands resting to our side, our bellies are drawn in. We're lifting left knee to right knee and back down again. So again, trying to lift about left knee to right knee and back down, keeping left heel off the ground to hold the resistance. We're not using momentum to lift, so we're not lifting the leg up like this. This takes momentum to lift. When we use momentum, we take out the strength. We'll do 4 more of these. And as I'm levering the left leg up, I can feel my right hip trying to come up with it. I'm using the strength of my core, my belly drawn in to keep that right hip on the ground. I'll do 1 more. And release. And then we always rotate back so the knee points to the sky and sort of just shake that off, shake it off. All right, so now that we've done several exercises to build strength, I've given you good form versus bad form, I'm going to move into stretching. There's good form and bad form for stretching as well. So we'll start on our backs. We have our feet on the ground. Our feet, our knees, and hips are lined up. I'm going to ask you to bring left knee into chest first. Hopefully I won't squeeze this mic here, but left knee into chest. And here it doesn't matter whether you're pointing the toe or flexing the heel, you're just drawing left knee to chest. So years ago, we were taught that this was a good thing. Drawing both knees into chest like this at one time were a good thing. What we know now is this puts too much pressure on the low back, on the spinal column. So we only always bring just one knee at a time in now to stretch. So we draw it in. And then for the hamstring stretch, we take the leg to the sky. And we're taking our hands here behind the leg, and the knee will slightly bend. We draw the knee to chest, slightly bend that knee. You're going to feel the stretch here. Remember the breath. And then you're going to try to draw the heel to the sky. So this is going to lengthen the back of the leg. So most of us will have our knees bent somewhere like this. But we're trying to lift the heel to the sky as we draw the knee to chest. So I'm trying to draw the knee into my chest as I lift my heel up. I can feel the length coming out of the back of my leg all the way up into my heel. This is your hamstring stretch. And if you're new to this, if this is the first time doing this, you're probably really tight. But if you've been doing this for a while, you know I always ask you to look for the quiver. So we're looking for you to draw that leg back so you can actually start to see the leg start to shake. That is your limit. So you're trying to see the leg start to shake. Don't hold your breath. And then we're going to point the toe and flex that heel. And we do this about 4 times. Really, again, trying to get that length. On the last one, we're going to start the rotation. We're still holding back, still getting the hamstring stretch. Rotate through the ankle. We do about 8 times one way, and then we'll go opposite direction. Rotate around, really trying to get that rotation, that movement through the ankle and the foot. About 4 more times. And last one. And then we take this ankle, left ankle, to rest onto right knee. So left ankle to rest, not the heel. The heel makes it much more difficult for the hip socket itself. So it's always your ankle resting on top of the knee. And then for a posture we call eye of the needle, you take one hand here, left hand to left knee, and right hand to left ankle. So both hands, knee and ankle. And we're going to keep this angle here, and we're just going to draw the knee into chest like this. So again, left hand here, right hand here, and just draw the knee into chest. You're going to get this wonderful stretch in the buttock area. Nice deep breath. So in eye of the needle, the focus, of course, is the buttock, trying to stretch the buttock. Some of us like to go deeper than this. This is a modified eye of the needle. So drawing it in like this is a modification. And I demonstrate it this way so that those who have issues with this knee, this is much easier or much not as intense on the knee as the one I'm going to demonstrate next. So full eye of the needle, we start here. Then I'm going to lift my right knee up into my left ankle. So right knee comes up. This already increases the stretch in the buttock. But here it may have a tendency to torque the knee. Then I take this leg to the sky. Again, this is increasing it even more. I'm going to take both of my hands here, clasp my hands, then draw that right knee into my left ankle. But again, for people who have issues with their left knee, this could be hazardous. You're trying not to torque or twist, or no twinge, no pain in the knee. So again, this is a more advanced version of eye of the needle. I'm going to go back to the modified version, the foot on the ground. And once again, as soon as I release, you can feel less pressure on the hip and no pressure here at all on the knee. And then draw the knee into chest. Here I am protecting my knee. And then release. Other side, we take the ankle to rest on the knee, not the heel. We take right hand to right knee, left hand to right ankle. Again, we're just going to excuse me. Just hug or draw the knee into chest. So draw it in. Again, no pressure, no pain, no discomfort in the knee. Again, this is a modification. Now, I know from myself years ago, maybe a couple years ago, I injured my right knee, my ACL and PCL. And I still occasionally have issues with my right knee. So as I draw this back right here, right now, I can feel a little bit of tightness more in this knee than my left. So for me, I would stay right here. I wouldn't go any deeper. And I would advise the same thing to anyone else who has those type of issues. If you feel when you draw back that you feel this sort of compression in this knee, there may be some inflammation. This is a good place to stay right here. So drawing knee to chest. Of course, if you want to go deeper, you'd bring left knee into that ankle, take left heel to the sky, flex the heel, transfer the hands behind the knee. But I choose to be kind to my body. Remember the breath. And release. We put those feet on the ground. I'm going to rotate and sit facing front. All right, so far, lots of pros, lots of cons, lots of do's, lots of don'ts. And it's interesting, even in stretching, that there are things we can do incorrectly. So here, this is called, this is the inner thigh and groin stretch. So inner thigh to groin, you take your ankles, you try to bring them in close. Bring the bottom of the feet together and just hold on to the ankles and just sit up nice and tall. And notice here how high my knees are off the ground. You'll know someone who has those knees all the way down to the ground. Okay, this all usually depends on how you're built, how the femur connects into the hip socket. So depending on how you're built, you may have your knees high, you may have your knees all the way to the ground. But remember, whatever feels good here is a good thing. So ankles here, draw the heels in, and then try to get really tall into the seat. So reach up. Nice deep breath. So if you were to come to me right now and take your hands and try to push down here on my knees, they won't go any further. It's not flexibility, it's how the bone, the femur, comes into the hip socket. So it is not going any further. Nice breath. Stretching inner thigh to groin. And then release. One of my favorite stretches is the mermaid. So in the mermaid, we have the knees bent. They're both bent the same direction. The feet are resting. You turn to this knee, the front knee, and you take your heart towards the knee. And you just sort of rest the weight of your torso on the knee. You're going to get this really nice stretch in the outside of the thigh. Here, you're trying to make sure you breathe because you're sort of compressing here, so always make sure you're breathing. Nice deep breath. Wonderful stretch, especially for someone who has issues with the hip itself. If you're one of those people that wakes up in the middle of the night and you've got that pain inside your hip and it just, you have a heck of a time getting back to bed. This is a great stretch, especially doing it right before you go to bed. You can hold this stretch for 1, 2, 3 minutes. Wonderful stretch. Just remember to breathe. Then we'll switch sides. We'll flip the knees over like a windshield wiper. Flip it over. Again, across the knee. Just take your torso right across the knee. And just let the weight rest on the knee. Keep your chin out of chest. And just feel this wonderful stretch on the outside of that hip. It travels up into the love handle area, the low back. And the more you do this, the more you're going to feel lengthening. I can actually feel this going into the outside of my knee. So I've gotten to the point where I can feel that extra length going from the low back across the hip and then into the outside of the knee. Remember the breath. And then release. So now moving into the upper body, sitting any way you like. You can have the feet together, you can crisscross, or you can take your legs out wide. It's your choice. You just want to make sure you can still sit nice and tall. So we're going to go for the shoulder stretch or rear deltoid stretch. We take this arm across the body. Opposite arm here. We're trying to get this arm above the elbow if you can. Press it back, look straight forward, and then a pro to this is to make sure that the elbows are off the chest so you can still breathe a nice deep breath. So a lot of times you'll find that you have this weight here, the arms resting on the chest, and you can't breathe a good breath. So let's get those arms up off the chest. This takes core strength, shoulders are back, chest lifted, and bellies are drawn in. And then we'll switch sides, again, trying to get this arm above the elbow if you can. Trying not to press on the elbow joints. We're trying to get the pressure off the elbow joint. And then to get a nice deep breath, we lift the elbows off the chest, shoulders back, and chest lifted for the rear deltoid back of shoulder stretch. And then for the triceps, so we take our arm. I'll take our right arm first. I always ask people to lift as high as you can. Lift that arm up. Then we take the hand to the back of the shoulder. We keep it off the back of the neck because the tendency is if you put your hand on the back of the neck, you have this tendency to draw your chin to chest. This puts pressure on the cervical spine. So we're taking the hand to the back of the shoulder, opposite hand to this elbow. Now lift the elbows up. With the elbows comes your chest. Your chin will level with the earth. Your shoulders are back. Your bellies are drawn in. You have a gentle curve in your low back. You're remembering your breath. Nice deep breath. And poor form here would be one is chin to chest. So you're more like this here. The elbows are forward. You're trying to lift the elbows up. This takes some core strength. And of course, not chin to the sky. You're not pinching the cervical spine. You're trying to level the chin off. Then we switch sides. We take this arm, reach it to the sky. Take the hand to the low back, the upper back, the shoulder back of the shoulder. Hand to elbow. Now lift up, gaze forward. Again, chin is level. Just sort of framing your face, sort of making a box around your face. Again, don't hold your breath. Nice deep breath. And then release. And then I like to finish the practice with I bring the bottom of my feet together. I like this version best. But you can keep your legs out, you can keep your legs crisscrossed, whatever works for you. As you know, I cannot take those knees down any further, okay, but I want to enjoy a little additional stretch here. But I take my hands behind my back, and I'll turn sideways so you can see this. And I try to take my shoulders and press back. So I'm sort of like, the cue here is to try to pinch the shoulder blades together. And then you lift your chest up and your chin is lifting just a tiny bit. I take in nice deep breaths. Again, I'll turn sideways for a better view. So again, the bottom of the feet together, knees are going to fall out, and you're going to let the knees kind of get heavy. Again, mine aren't going down any further than that, so knees are heavy. I take my hands behind my back, and I have my fingers pointed away from me, so kind of pointing away, taking the length of the mat. And I'm trying to draw my shoulder blades together, so sort of pinching my shoulder blades together, that's the cue. And then my chin, no longer looking down or looking level, I'm sort of looking gently up. Then I'm lifting my chest up, taking a nice deep breath. This is wonderful for the diaphragm, giving you a much deeper breath. Just let the chest rise and fall with every breath. And then release. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the pros and cons of Body Conditioning Intermediate, and I hope it's given you some good information so when you come back to Folsom for Body Conditioning Intermediate, you are doing everything in proper form. Guys, thanks for joining me today. Again, I'm Kathleen Connor.